Coming to you straight from the Rio Grande and beyond. Broadcasting to the four corners of the globe. So grab your seat, your coffee, or your sundowner.
Okay, everybody, here we go.
On point, as always. This is Gloves Off. Gloves Off.
Back at you in Gloves Off. I'm Paul Buitrón. I'm here with attorney at law, Ms. Nelly Vilma. How we doing?
Good. How you doing, Paul?
It's good to see you.
Good seeing you too.
And how's everything now?
Enjoying this hot weather? Yes, very good. We're doing good. There's a lot of business. This seems to be the year of immigration. I keep on getting calls and making presentations, so we're doing good with our business and
That's
personal
wonderful.
injury.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. But let's touch base with immigration.
Mm-hmm.
It's a hot topic with everything
Yes.
going on here in the border. What's going on with the mass migration, everybody crossing the border? What is actually happening?
Well, the numbers continue to increase, and unfortunately, last week we heard the president saying that he was going to allow the approximately 70,000 people that are in Mexico on the MPP that they were waiting for asylum to start coming in and trickling in. So that is a concern because, of course, as we all know, Mexico had big numbers of COVID. I don't know how many was it, 355,000 people that died. They didn't have a very good contingency of the situation. So that is a concern, especially when you put it against the fact that even our local families and friends and people that, the shoppers, that used to come to the border community, they can't even cross. And so the excuse there is because of COVID restrictions, but yet there's no COVID restrictions for asylum seekers. So it seems a little bit incongruent. I read this morning that the Vice President Harris went to Guatemala and that they're going to try to do this arrangement, putting some millions of dollars into agribusiness and some business initiatives down there to try to create jobs, I guess, and also train. I think Homeland Security is going to be training their forces over there to stop the migration to the north, and they hope to also set up refugee or asylum-free clearance in those countries. So hopefully, those measures are taken here quickly. But in the meantime, my son's aboard Patrón de Valle, and the Donna station is full every day.
All the stations, you start hearing from deputies and from the sheriffs, especially from Dimmitt. We have another chase. Be careful. Do this. They're coming through. So that those concerns are there, and you kind of don't hear anything from Webb. Kind of everything's kind of.
Mm-hmm.
You hear that they busted a stash house here and a stash house there, and the problem is, I think the crime in the communities is going to grow, and more of those type of crimes that I'm seeing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what's going to place a lot of people in danger. And, more so because of the traveling and the high speeds. And if they crash, they don't care if there's people in the back. The driver runs off and that kind of stuff, You've seen a lot of heart-tearing videos with young kids that are just left behind and, in the brush and the deserts, and just a rancher finds them, and you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. I have to give credit to our Border Patrol because they're more like search and rescue than anything else that's going on right now. And alongside that, you're going to start seeing, I guess, more drug influences and everything else start crossing. And we just heard from the governor here, Governor Abbott, say that he was going to start arresting those that cross over. I don't know, does he have the capability, or what do you think?
I believe there was something that before probably still in place, so I believe that passed a few years back, about 3 years ago. So they may have the capability. I think it's part of the penal code, but it will have to be, of course, they observe that they have they've been creating or having that illegal crossing. So I don't know if they're going to be nearby the river too. But it's a lot of Mr. also read somewhere that he was going to revoke or not allow the childcare license facilities to be holding children also for the feds. So that's going to be another, another problem there for the feds. And I mean, I understand the precarious condition that they live, not only the local resources, the state resources. And when I used to be in city government and we would go to legislative session in Washington, we will tell them it's like we are at the third frontier. We're paying to our local law enforcement, but we're also in essence paying for the EMS and the medical assessments and things like that. And right now with COVID, we're not getting any federal funding that I know of to help with this. So at least I'm glad to hear that Mayor Saenz was asking for the stakeholders meeting, but I really don't see the federal government getting organized if this amount of people are going to be coming in. There's no plan yet. If it weren't for the mayor asking for something, they wouldn't even have thought of it. It's just like, okay, 70,000, and let's see the exodus from Mexico. And we know that human trafficking is a moneymaker for the cartels, and we know that they use it as a way of, okay, get busy with this, babysit here while I pass the drugs on the other side. So we are going to see an increase. Unfortunately, it's hard to see these unaccompanied minors. It breaks your heart. And I know a lot of the cases that I've had in the past. I mean, I stopped doing asylums 2 years ago because these are heartbreaking cases. They come and unfortunately, if you look at the rates of rape, femicide, and things of that nature, and the impunity in those countries, that triangle in the Central America, lo que es Salvador, Honduras, and Guatemala. And it was like a 93-95% impunity. I mean, there's bodies of ladies, just chopped up everywhere. That they just appear wherever. You know that your daughter, as soon as she gets puberty, if one of the the maras or the calle 18 gets hurt, that's it. Like, they're gonna rape her and they're gonna use them. So, or vice versa, the boys too. They're gonna use them because otherwise the family is gonna pay the consequences. So, as a mother, I hear the problem, and I would also try to, have the best for my kids. But there has to be a system. They have to, just like they did when the problems with the Colombia and Medellin with the drug cartels and how it's being right now. They're the ones that control. The police down there doesn't control. It's the cartels. So I think that's the way of the U.S. Being able to help and somehow bring some equilibrium to that area.
Absolutely. Back in the early 90s, the starts of Boko Haram in Western Africa and Central Africa, you had the same thing, just like the cartels. They would ignore it. You saw the violence, and now it's all over the place. And now they go after what have you, and now it's a problem. Now those are labeled terrorist groups. We have to start labeling these as terrorist groups for us to go down there and say, you know what, enough's enough. Mm-hmm. We just can't send our lads out there and our young ladies to go out there and battle something that we cannot have the excuse to go back. You know what I'm saying? And we're gonna eventually that's gonna happen, and it's just a matter of time.
Yes.
And we unfortunately, but we have to start taking these groups when they start getting to that point, as they are terrorist organizations. We have to start stopping them and dealing with them as need be. But changing that, has the laws of immigration changed, or what is going on, or they haven't?
No, the law didn't change. I mean, I think the pause that they had done with the MPP is what was changed recently, so that people are able to seek asylum. But even there, they're trying to stall it, and they came up with some creative solution to try to get some nonprofits to kind of like interview all these people and see who are the critical persons that must come into the U.S. But then again, you can only go as far as those nonprofits are protected from corruption and from extortion, because that's going to be another moneymaker, and buy a ticket in. And so I'm very, very concerned about that, trying to bypass the system and giving it to nonprofits where you have no control and no oversight. So that's going to be a difficult situation. And watch it happen. I mean, just when the MPP got started, As a member of the AILA, American Immigration Lawyers Association, we have several groups, and the Border Justice Group, there was a lot of incidents along the border where, sometimes the kids, even, let's say you have a family and one of the kids already turned 18 or 21, they were going to be separated, and they will leave them out there by themselves. I mean, we had incidents of rape, molestation. We had incidents where people will pay in to get their ticket, if you will, for the MPP, while others had been there, staying at that same, shelter for days, and somebody jumped them because they were able to have money and bribe their way in. So it's going to be hard.
We all understand, the passing of the book and how it's done. Is there any way we can change the way visas and to gain access into the United States can be changed on other countries, like when they go apply for a visa or what have, make it a lot more easier than it is, or is it hard, or why is the reason? Is it very hard to get a visa coming over?
Well, the thing is that the visas for permanent residency, there's a big backlog. And so, let's say, for example, you look at, there's a visa list, like a visa bulletin that comes out every month. And so there's categories, right? So if I'm a spouse or child under 21 of a US citizen, I don't have to wait. There's a visa immediately waiting for me. But if my spouse or parent is a legal permanent resident, just green card holder, there might be a waiting list, right? When I was in law school, it was like 7 years wait. So some of my clients were like, pues ya me divorcio, 7 years waiting for the wife and kids. So that's why we had a lot of illegal entry back then. But right now it's current, sometimes it goes back 2 years of wait and so on. But then you have other lists. So let's say, for example, I was able to immigrate my kids, but I've been waiting, and finally they come in, oh, my oldest is already 21. Oh, my oldest got married. Now they're stuck over there. And now they go to a waiting list, which for Mexico, China, India, no me acuerdo what other country, Philippines, they're on a long waiting list. For example, Mexico, if I petition my child, they're barely right now in 1998. Or 96 for some siblings, and if they're married, 1996, and for siblings, 1997. So there's 22 years of wait. Like, I don't think so. And it's just difficult to see, and that's what the frustration comes with the immigration system and why comprehensive immigration is necessary, because these people have been law-abiding, waiting by the book, waiting for years, and then all of a sudden they get jumped and they wait. And then during the last couple of years, last year perhaps, even though they were already, finally after those 22 years, they had their appointment to go to the consular office, and then they stopped all those visas. So they're like, oh my God, like, when is this gonna restart? So we're barely seeing the consulates reopen.
So with that being said, whose fault is it? Congress?
Congress needs to make better decisions as to the allocations of visas, looking at if you have these 4 countries that immigrate a lot because probably they have a more closer familiar nucleus, right? And you have other countries that don't, well, allocate the amount of visas accordingly so that it makes sense and you don't have to punish those that are, close-knit families.
Because if you're waiting, I would say 5 years, well, now you're talking about 20-something years, since 98. That's a long way. Now that's why you understand why they're gonna cross the way they're going to cross, and it's going to be a lot easier just to pay somebody to cross you. Let's take our chances. And unfortunately, it's our fault because we're doing that. I do not blame them for coming to the United States. Okay, we're the #1 country in the world. You know what I'm saying? We have freedoms, and we better take care of them, or else we're going to lose them. So we need to understand. We understand that. We understand the reasons why. And nobody's saying don't come. Come legally. Let's take care of the good people. Let's bring them in. If this happens, let's bring them in. But I think that this problem was created on people that are in Congress.
Yes.
And the ones that are fault are at them, and it's really, really, really hurting.
It's hurting, and in a lot of areas, like let's say, for example, the unaccompanied minors. We had a surge in 2014. And that little category where their visas are allocated, it has, I don't remember the number right now, but it has X amount of visas, right, for that little box. In that same box, you have amelioration. You also have the VAWAS, which is Violence Against Women's Act, people that are victims and they're married or parents or kids of a U.S. citizen or legal permanent resident. And you also have your religious and vocations and ministers. So I represent the Diocese of Laredo. I do their immigration. And so from 2014 till now, their visas have been delayed for the priests, for the nuns, for the brothers. And sometimes we have to send them back to their country. I mean, I had a couple of priests that had to go back to, Poland or, Venezuela and have to wait up until the visa became available and then come back so that they don't have illegal status. And so in the meantime, you lose ministers while you're waiting on this allocation. And we sent to Congress, we sent to the Senate, and they haven't made any changes thus far.
I thought they were going to be protected under Vatican and under diplomatic type of immunity. And they're not.
No,
they're just
not. No, they're not. They have to leave the country if their religious visa is about to expire, so that they don't accrue unlawful presence, and then they can never immigrate.
That's ridiculous, especially on that note.
Yes.
On somebody like that. There's a lot of different, and I understand we have to check their backgrounds and who are they and all that stuff. Of course, we have to check all that stuff. But I thought, that's interesting.
The other thing that's happened, yesterday the Supreme Court gave a decision on temporary protected status. They have allocated temporary protected status to about 12 countries, and that's usually when there's a hurricane, an earthquake like Haiti or
Sure.
Central America, civil war. So they are already here and they're given this permit where they can stay here while the civil unrest is ongoing. They can stay here and they can work. So what had happened is that the country was divided. Different court circuits had a yes or a no. If I have a TPS, a temporary protected status, and I marry a U.S. citizen and they petition me to immigrate, or my kids are now U.S. citizens and want to petition me, in some states, in some circuits, the people could become legal permanent resident because that's what the courts decided. In other states, you couldn't because they were saying, no, this was an illegal entry, therefore you can't. So the Supreme Court, yesterday, the decision was that if the entry was illegal, they cannot get legal permanent residency. Unless they came in with a visitor visa or some other kind of visa, then yes. Which also really, I know it says temporary protected status, but then be and do what you mean. Because, for example, that case that went to Supreme Court, they had been here since like 98 or 2000. And come on, you've been here for 30 years, your kids are here, your grandkids are here, your business, your house. So how do they expect them to go back to their country and start from fresh?
When I was in Dallas, I used to teach a lot of kids that were already in high school.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't speak Spanish. They'll look at you like this.
Yeah,
but they were here illegally, and they were brought in illegally, and they were working, they were good citizens, you know what I'm saying? They were graduating, they were moving forward. Some of them were even going into the police force, and you're like,
yeah.
Then you find out later on that they're not citizens, but they had everything.
They had everything, just a little papelito missing. Yeah, that's our DACAs, and it hurts sometimes because people don't realize and they didn't, follow through with getting the paperwork. But after the DACA, the initial DACA was reopened, we've been able to get a lot of approvals. This last month or so, we started getting all the ones we filed in December after the change. So that's been good for the kids that didn't file it back then and qualified, so now they're getting their DACAs. The other thing also on the U visas, the U visa is for victims of crime. Like if I witness a crime or I'm a victim to a crime and I help with the prosecution, like I help with the investigation,
Sure.
then I qualify for a visa to protect me. And this is important because we've had cases, for example, if the parent is here illegally, yet their daughter gets raped and the daughter's a U.S. citizen. Well, it's easier for the perp to just call Border Patrol and get rid of the whole evidence, right? So then that protects those parents to be able to prosecute the crime or in any other type of crime. And so what had happened is that even though they're here with that U visa that allows them to be working, that allows them to stay, they have to wait, first of all. Right now they're in like 2016 or 2017, they're about 6 years out. And so while you're waiting, you might be in removal, in deportation process. And in some circuits, you could get a continuance, And in other circuits, you could get deported regardless of the fact that you are a victim and you are here helping the government to prosecute. So the newest, there was a class action lawsuit, and so there was a 90-day deadline, I think it's June 15th, to submit a motion for continuance for those people that are U visa recipients. If they're victims of a crime, they're U visa recipients, or they're on the waiting list for the U visa. They filed it, let's say 2016, 17, 18, they're still waiting. And they're in removal, deportation proceedings. Their attorney has to file a motion for continuance before June 15, so that they can be protected on this class action lawsuit. So we've been filing those to try to secure our families from being deported.
Absolutely. And all that needs to be there, those safety measures. But what you just told me now about waiting since '98, that's uncalled for.
Yes.
That is uncalled for.
Mm-hmm.
And the goal that Congress has, it's not our fault, it's your fault, pointing the finger, it's you all. What are you all doing?
Yes.
You all have to sit down and get this thing straight.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, they're not doing it. They're just kicking that can down another 4 more years. I don't think they're going to do anything this 4 years either.
Yeah,
another four more years go around, and then they're going to blame the other person that's in there.
I feel bad for the DACAs because they've been kicking that can down the road and just, opportunistic messaging. But it's hard, when I talk to my clients, and it's like, they're like, do I buy a house or not? Am I going to get deported or not? Do we have kids or not? Because they're in limbo. So it's a difficult situation. And then going back to what you were mentioning, where it goes to 20, 21 years, wait. This is very important to get the message across. I call it el tren de los 21, okay? Que no se les pase el tren. So if that train goes by, if I'm a legal permanent resident or I'm a U.S. citizen and I have a child that is about to turn 21, make sure you file that petition. Even if you don't have the money for the rest, just file the petition and freeze that date. Because otherwise you're gonna be waiting 22 years for your kids. So don't let that train of 21 pass by. And the same thing with the special immigrant juveniles. That's another section, like for unaccompanied kids or for kids that were abandoned, abused, or neglected by either one of the parents. We have that situation with CPS kids, perhaps, or we have that situation with other things, or kids whose parents disappeared. Cartel violence. We get a lot of them that their uncle or grandparents bring them in, but we need to get them to court before age 18 to get a judge to determine the factual basis that they are special immigrant juveniles. Because if it's past 18, they're not going to get it and they're not going to qualify for residency. I was very, very sad to hear. I had a call from a counselor from one of the local high schools, and she had identified 2 kids, and they had just turned 18. I was like, I need to train the teachers and counselors to identify these factors.
Yeah, that's very important. Is there any way we can do that, gather them all together and make sure that they're all on the same page and understand that? Because we have a lot of kids in our school systems here that are in that predicament.
Yes.
Is there any way we can do that, and you can give the class and maybe get everybody together?
I think so. I think we need to
Educate
provide
them.
the information about the vulnerable populations, which is SIJ, the Special Immigrant Juvenile, victims of crime, or any other statute that they might follow. The DACAs, the ones that now qualify, because maybe back then they were not 15 yet, but they had all the other requirements. Well, now it's right for them to apply.
Absolutely. I want to thank you for coming and talking about the immigration, because it is a problem that we're living in and we're facing, and it's not a problem as many people think, they're just throwing them. No, it's a problem that our Congress, literally, in my opinion, has produced in a very long time, and all of a sudden they're like pointing fingers.
Yes.
Well, they should have been doing something 21 years ago,
Yes,
98 is a long time.
Yeah, there's been 3 attempts at comprehensive immigration reform, but the last one I remember, it was the year before I got to law school, it was in 97, so there hasn't been any substantial change, and it has changed pretty much by case law. Hopefully there's some tweaks in the agricultural package that is going through Congress, but I think without the border security issue, they're not going to be able to get all the votes that they need to make it happen. So I hope that they come up with a good system, and I hope that we don't end up with holding the bag for the feds with all the problems here locally.
And it's more like that's what's gonna end up happening, so we should be preparing for that. As the city should be preparing for something like that that's gonna happen.
Yes.
Because they just go ahead and just, they find something else and, well, too bad.
Yeah.
And you know the way they are, the feds.
They don't even come to the border and they're making decisions about the border.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, absolutely. I want to thank you.
Thank you very much.
And anytime, come out and tell us exactly what's going on, because we do need that. It affects our community a lot.
Definitely. Will do. Thank you for the invite.
And folks, if you need a good attorney, Nelly Vilma's right here. So please give her a call. And I'm not pushing her anyway. I know her.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And but you all stay safe and be safe. Until next time.
Today, in America, more than 5.5 million men, women, and children train in a martial art regularly. Bowie Tyrone Academy has been serving Laredo for over 30 years now. Our adult classes are geared for producing the best in you, teaching you street-ready techniques. With the arts of Savate and Kinpo, you'll learn the traditions of these sciences of combat as passed down professor to student.
Bonjour, friends of Professor Withron. The COVID-19 scare is almost over. Be sure to bring the kids back to the professor's training and help them build their bodies, self-respect, self-confidence, and self-defense. The professor is a very competent and amazing man of several talents, aside from being a lovable teddy bear and a funny man. Get back to the studios. This is Sam Booth calling from Phoenix, Arizona. Have a great training. Bye for now.
Hello, my name is Manuel Lozano. I've been trained in the martial arts for close to 50 years. I trained in many martial arts from different masters and grandmasters throughout the years, from the 70s all the way to now. I've known Professor Paul Withron for about 30 years. He has done the same, trained in many different arts with many masters. He's traveled all over France, studying with surviving Savate grandmasters, did his research. This man not just knows the fighting techniques and the art, but the philosophy, the history and the strategy, and applying this arts combined with all the other arts. So this man is a wealth of knowledge for anyone seeking instruction in real martial arts and street martial arts. This is the school to go to in Laredo, Texas. For those of you who are away from Laredo, this is the guy to look for. Okay, he's very well versed in all the fighting styles of the different arts he is trained in, and I would highly recommend the school.
Hi, this is Mike Lackery from San Antonio, Texas, home of CMOC and the Wing Chun Boxing Academy. I'm here to tell you about my good friend Paul Withron. He is reopening his school in Laredo, Texas. Paul is a wealth of knowledge. I've known him a long time. I highly suggest everybody in that area get with it. Go down there and train. Times are getting tough here. And with this COVID-19, we need to support local business. So I highly suggest go see Paul Withron at the Don Zaru Savate Academy in Laredo, Texas. You will not regret it. Be good.
Come train at the best kept secret of Laredo. Give us a call for your free evaluation at 956-401-4868 or check out our website at savate.biz. Follow us on YouTube and Facebook.